Konnichiwa. Thank you very much for inviting me to present to you on the Triple P positive parenting system. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person. Unfortunately, current world events prevent me from traveling, but Japan is certainly a place that I have visited previously. We have skied earlier this year in Japan at Shigakogen, and we visited Okayama just last year with my family. That's my kids enjoying the gardens there. I come from Brisbane in Australia, and Australia is of course the home of koalas and kangaroos, as I'm sure all of you are well aware. It is also home of the Triple P positive parenting program. And my presentation today is going to focus on giving you an overview of this system of intervention and the evidence base for it to date. To begin with, just a word in terms of disclosure. The Triple P positive parenting program is owned by the University of Queensland, and it's licensed to a company called Triple P International to publish and disseminate the program worldwide. Royalties stemming from the program do come back to the university and to individual contributing authors, and I am an author of Triple P, and I'm employed at the University of Queensland. These are the types of stories that we often see in the media about children and the sorts of difficulties that children experience. And we are bombarded with the sorts of problems that parents are faced with on an everyday basis. And in many ways, those are the sorts of problems that is part of our job or our future jobs to try to prevent, to try to treat in some ways. But I think as well as thinking about treatment, we also need to consider the other side of things. So what are the sorts of skills that children need in order to not fall into those headlines that we saw on the previous slide? So what are the sorts of skills that children need to do well in life? Things like communicating and getting on with others, being able to express their own views, ideas, and needs. They need to be able to cooperate with others' requests and with others in general. They need to be able to manage their own emotions. They need to be able to recognize their own emotions and express feelings in a way that doesn't harm others. They also need plenty of independent skills. They need to be responsible for their own actions. They need to learn how to do a whole variety of things for themselves. And finally, they also need many problem-solving skills. So ways to manage the difficulties that come up at various points in their lives. Now we know that parenting has a pervasive impact on the development and well-being of children across the lifespan. And parenting has an important role to play in both the development of those important life skills that were listed on the previous slide, as well as preventing the sorts of problems that were outlined in those headlines earlier. So the quality of the parent-child relationships and the types of parenting practices that parents engage in has an impact on a whole range of outcomes, both in terms of things like language development and self-regulation, on conduct problems, emotional and behavioural problems, but also on, I guess, more biological aspects, things like obesity, the development of chronic health problems, sedentary behaviour, screen time, any issue that you can imagine from a child's development, particularly in the very, very early lives of childhood, the very early years of childhood. Those are the times when parents are going to have a huge impact on children. And at our centre, the Parenting and Family Support Centre here at the University of Queensland, we see good parenting as the clean water of youth mental health and wellbeing. So if we think of water as being essential to life, we think of parenting as being an essential positive component in terms of children's health and well-being. But of course, Parents in their parenting role need to be supported. Many do struggle in their role as parents. Many do seek support. And there are many programs out there, not all of them necessarily evidence-based. So evidence-based parenting support is so important for a whole range of reasons. So first of all, parenting is widely recognised as an important determinant of children's well-being. So parents impact on just about every aspect of children's development to a greater or lesser extent. There is increasing global emphasis on access to evidence-based parenting support programs. So various international organisations like the WHO and UNICEF have put out policy documents indicating the importance of all parents having access to good evidence-based support. There is the rising influence of numerous evidence-based lists in guiding funding priorities around the world. So these, in many countries, there will be lists of parenting interventions, but also other evidence-based programs that agencies or services can deliver or receive funding for delivering. It's also worthwhile and important to note that the best outcomes of these kinds of programs are achieved when these evidence-based parenting programs are implemented with high fidelity. So it's not just a matter of making sure that evidence-based programs are available, but they need to be available in a way that's delivered with fidelity to as many parents as possible. And the strength of evidence is also a consumer issue. So parents want to know that the kinds of support and information that they're seeking is actually supported by evidence and research. Parenting support is a whole of population issue. It's not just something that should be delivered to parents who are at risk or who already have existing problems. It's certainly the case that many, if not most parents, struggle with the challenges of raising children. Most parents at some point in their parenting journey will have questions about how best to manage different child behaviours, how to promote their child's development in different ways, and how to deal with new transitions as their child grows. Parents, of course, have diverse needs and preferences. So clearly not all parents in a population are going to want the same thing delivered in the same way. It's also the case that problematic parenting practices are actually much more common than official child abuse records reflect. It's true to say that many countries don't have particularly good systems for collecting this kind of information. And worldwide, we don't have any surveys that collect information about parenting practices. When parenting is supported as a whole of population level, it tends to avoid signalling that a parenting intervention is something that is only for those who are somehow bad parents. And so it reduces the stigma of attendance and seeking out of parenting interventions. It's also true that lots of different problems impacted by parenting can also be addressed at the same time. So because parenting impacts on so many different aspects of children's development, when you help parents be more effective in their role, that can actually affect a whole range of different aspects of the child's development. But determining what works best is not actually a straightforward question. We, in the intervention world, in the cognitive behavioural therapy world, in the parenting literature, have been asking this question for a number of years, and we still don't have good answers to this. So what intervention, delivered by whom, in which setting, at what age, by which delivery modality, is effective with what child, parent or family problem, in which cultural context? We know that evidence-based parenting interventions work, but the answers to this particular question is still being determined. So a population-based, multi-level system of parenting support actually provides flexible options to cater to those differing needs that parents might have across child development. Successful population-level interventions, however, blend both universal and targeted programs. So it's certainly not the case that offering evidence-based interventions to everyone precludes having very targeted interventions for parents who have very specific needs. And there are now a number of trials of the Triple P system which demonstrate this successful blending of universal and targeted programs. So let me tell you a bit more about Triple P and the Triple P system and what it entails. So the Triple P system is a population approach, and there are a number of different elements built into the system that are designed to ensure that it works as effectively as it possibly can at that population level. So it's a multi-level system, meaning that there are different levels of intensity that parents can access depending on needs. So there are very brief programs, and then there are much more intensive, individually focused programs. It's multidisciplinary, which means that there are a number of professionals who've contributed to the development of the program, and also is delivered by practitioners from a whole variety of different backgrounds and disciplines. It's inclusive, so while it's called the Positive Parenting Program, we work on the assumption that it's anyone who works or is in a supportive role for a child, whether that be a mum or a dad or a grandparent or a foster care, has an important contribution and should have access to good evidence-based information. It's essential that any evidence-based program is culturally appropriate and acceptable in the cultural context where it's being delivered. It, of course, needs to be effective. And I'll show you the data for Triple P in a little while, which demonstrates the evidence base that has been accumulated over many, many years now. And I think it's also important that this kind of a population approach actually results in a variety of positive outcomes for both children and families. A multi-level system tends to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach. So we know that parents have different needs at different stages of their child's development. They have different preferences. Some parents love the notion of attending a group program. Some parents hate that. Some parents are unable to get care for the child and would prefer an internet-based program, for example. So one of the things that makes the Triple P system unique is that it offers a multi-tiered system which ranges from a broad communication-based strategy targeting all parents, which is very low intensity, through to briefer and more narrower focused parenting support, which is fairly still low intensity and light touch, through to more intensive parenting support or family intervention, which can be delivered both in a group format and one-to-one. Within Triple P, we have a number of different delivery formats, and this is particularly helpful to meet the different needs and preferences for parents. So the program can be delivered one-to-one, it can be delivered in small or large groups. There are online and self-directed workbook versions of the program, and it can be done over the phone as well. And finally, we've had a number of television and radio podcast series that have also been shown to work in delivering the program to parents. The Triple P system also has a number of variants for different parents, or parents from different backgrounds or life stages. So we have versions for Indigenous families, for families transitioning to parenthood, that's BabyTriple P, families going through divorce. We've got a separate version of the program for parents of teenagers, one for parents of children with a disability, that's the Stepping Stones program, with the idea that parents have different needs, and so different modules or elements or strategies need to be integrated into a program for specific groups. So as I mentioned, the Triple P system has a number of different levels of intervention. So at level 1, which is the broadest level, the least intensive level, there is a large-scale media and communication strategy that's designed to promote positive parenting messages to all parents. And this is designed for 2 reasons. One is to provide information and education to parents about positive parenting, but it's also designed as a strategy to reduce the stigma around seeking parenting support. So it's making parenting part of the regular conversation. We do regular media interviews on television, radio, in the print media as well as part of this strategy. At level 2, we primarily focus on the Triple P seminar series, and this is a series of 3 seminars, 3 90-minute seminars that can be delivered to quite large groups of families. And by large, you can see in the photos, this can be up to several hundred parents at a time. And these are quite reasonably interactive, but they're primarily meant to convey the basics information about the program and the strategies and the principles of positive parenting. And parents can attend one or the whole series of seminars. Level 3 is what we call primary care Triple P, and this consists of 2 different formats. One is a brief individual format that's delivered across 3 to 4 brief 20 to 30-minute sessions focused around a very specific parenting problem that a parent might come with. And this can be typically delivered in a general practitioner kind of context. We also now have a series of discussion groups that are brief 2-hour sessions focused around a very specific child behaviour problem. So things like having good bedtimes or hassle-free shopping with children or dealing with disobedience. And so within each of these sessions, the focus is very much on that one particular problem and how to best prevent that problem from developing in the first place, but also how to manage it once it has developed. Level 4 is more intensive parenting support, and this can be done either as a group version or as a standard, which is our individually delivered 10-session program, or it can be done online by parents or as a self-directed workbook that they work through on their own or with the support of a practitioner via the phone, for example. So this is designed for those parents who want additional, more broader support and for parents who are experiencing multiple different difficulties with the child's behaviour. Beyond level 4 is level 5, and level 5 essentially pairs some of this level 4 parenting information with additional modules to support parents, individual coping, for example, or additional modules to help couples support each other more effectively, or for individual anger management skills, and so on and so forth. So it's designed as a strategy that covers the broader family context in addition to the specific parenting strategies that are delivered as part of level 4 Triple P. So who delivers Triple P? There are now over 60,000 practitioners trained around the world in about 30 countries. By and large, these are practitioners who are part of the existing workforce. So they are psychologists, there are general practitioners, there are nurses, there are teachers, childcare workers, social workers, anybody who works with families and with parents to support the well-being of children. So this workforce is very multidisciplinary and diverse. It's also delivered in many different settings. So from the pictures I've shown you just before, you might have gotten the idea that it's a very structured program that's delivered in a kind of lecture format style. And that can certainly be the case for the seminar series, for example, but it can be delivered anywhere. It can be delivered in a school setting, in a workplace. We've had sessions delivered on the beach in Indigenous contexts in Australia. So the setting doesn't matter so much. It's having the support network around parents to deliver the program effectively and with fidelity. And there is a very structured training program that practitioners undergo as part of this intervention. And there's also an accreditation process that practitioners attend before they are accredited to deliver Triple P. And following training and accreditation, Triple P International provides implementation support both to individuals and more specifically to organisations to ensure that the program is delivered sustainably with fidelity over time, to make sure that the investment that organisations and individuals have made in their training actually pay off in the future. So all of these aspects of the workforce and the training mean that this is very much a scalable program. We estimate that there have been well over 1 million families and children who've now been exposed to Triple P around the world. And you can see here on this slide the countries or the areas of the world where Triple P training has been conducted. And so pretty much on every continent, except Antarctica, of course, we've had some level of training and delivery of the program. And what I think is important or interesting to note is that regardless of where the program has been delivered, parents have received it very, very positively. We have done testing to make sure that it's culturally acceptable, that it fits with the cultural values and beliefs of families. But I guess anywhere you go in the world, parents generally want the same things for their children. They want them to be happy, healthy, well-adjusted, successful in life. And it doesn't matter where you are, parents generally want those same things for their children. And our research today suggests that the principles within Triple P certainly are consistent with the various cultural beliefs and systems around the world. So let's talk more about the sorts of outcomes that the program actually leads to. So you can see here on this slide that implementation of a multi-level system of parenting support primarily is designed to create positive changes in parenting and family relationships. So to lead to things like less harsh and coercive parenting and more positive parenting, to lead to increases or improvements in parents' sense of self-efficacy, their confidence in their ability to manage the day-to-day challenges of parenting. It leads to improved parental teamwork and reduced overall family conflict. And it also results in improved parental well-being. So parents tend to be less stressed, less anxious, less depressed as a result of participating in a program like Triple P. Implementation of this multi-level system of parenting support can also activate community processes that support parenting, because I think it's really important to recognise that parenting doesn't happen in a vacuum. And when parents are supported by their community, when they feel like they can trust the community around them, when they're supported, and where the whole community feels like they're working together for children's well-being, parents are much more likely to be able to seek help if they need it, and also to feel supported in their parenting role. And so these two elements together result in better child outcomes. So let's have a look at what these better child outcomes actually look like. So we have data at a population level that participation in the Triple P positive parenting program actually leads to reduced rates of child maltreatment. And this is shown in administrative data that has shown that there are fewer cases of child abuse and neglect, lower rates of child abuse, hospitalizations and injuries, and fewer out-of-home placements for children. It certainly results in better mental health outcomes for children. So when parents attend Triple P, their children have lower rates of behavioural and emotional difficulties, and that then means that they're at reduced risk for antisocial behaviour, substance abuse, and serious mental health problems later in life. And when children do participate in a program like Triple P, this can also result in improved school outcomes. Things like better adjustment at school, fewer conduct problems, and lower rates of truancy. Now, building a foundation of evidence takes time. The Triple P system has now undergone over nearly 30 years of evaluation. It became a named program in 1993. And there have been over 164 randomised controlled trials of various parts of the Triple P system. The vast majority of these show positive effects, like the ones I've mentioned in the previous two slides. Some, of course, show that there are null effects or don't find any evidence of change, but those are in the minority. And a lot of increasingly many of the studies and evaluations of Triple P are being conducted with no developer involvement. So it's important to note that while certainly the foundations of the program were developed and designed at the University of Queensland in Australia, increasingly this is a program that's being tested, used and evaluated around the world. So how effective is it? This is data from a meta-analysis that was conducted about 6 years ago with over 16,000 families who participated in some level of Triple P. And so you can see here the data is broken down by these on the axis here you're seeing the effect sizes and across the bottom here you've got the different levels of Triple P. So ranging from level 1, the least intensive, to level 5, the most intensive. In yellow, you have the parenting practices and the change overall in those. And in pink are the child outcomes. So I guess two overall findings. Overall, we have moderate to large effect sizes for parenting and child outcomes when you average out across the different levels of intervention. It's also clear from this slide that the lower intensity interventions are not having as large an effect as the more intensive interventions, which makes sense for many reasons, because those participating in a level 1 intervention or a very brief intervention are not exposed to the same level of dose of the intervention, but more importantly are often families who don't have particularly significant problems in their parenting or in their child behaviour and simply have less room to move or to change. But overall, across the board, regardless of level of parenting, level of intervention, there are significant and sustained effects of participation in Triple P. Now, comprehensive evaluation obviously requires different types of evidence. So while the randomised controlled studies are obviously critical and are the gold standard to ensuring that an intervention is effective, there are many other types of evaluations that become important as a program or a system gains maturity and is disseminated around the world. So there is a very comprehensive evidence base around Triple P now. And there are a multitude of conceptual papers describing the program and different elements or parts of the system. There's a whole range of single case experiments that was often done as the foundational work towards the development of Triple P. As I mentioned, there are over 160 randomised controlled trials of the intervention, including some place-based experiments that are quite large population-based trials, quasi-experimental studies, which often have examined change over long periods of time. There are a number of evaluations in low and middle income countries and in different cultural contexts. There is an increasing series of systematic reviews and meta-analyses that have included, either have included Triple P studies or have been solely focused on the Triple P system. Clearly, service-based evaluations are very important to ensure that programs can be disseminated effectively and with fidelity. Likewise, training, implementation and supervision studies to make sure that the program is able to be delivered over time effectively by practitioners. And there's a whole series of studies looking at consumer needs and preferences and cultural acceptability as well, to make sure that the sorts of interventions, strategies, principles that are included in the program meet the needs and preferences of parents in different contexts. So in conclusion, parenting is probably the single biggest thing that impacts the well-being of children. We know that smart prevention efforts can be successful when they reach many parents in the community, and that the same parenting support strategy can actually achieve multiple goals. So multiple goals in terms of changing parenting, but also in changing a diverse range of child well-being outcomes and potentially changing community level outcomes as well. Tested evidence-based programs are essential to producing good outcomes. It's not the case that anyone can put together a program and send it out there and hope that it works. It is really important that those programs that are being delivered to families have been tested to actually work. Strong implementation support is critical to see these evidence-based programs succeed. So within Triple P, as I mentioned, there is strong implementation support of practitioners and organisations to ensure that the program is delivered with fidelity and that it's delivered sustainably over time. And I think it's important also to recognise that prevention does take multiple years to see results. If we intervene at a population level, we may not see any immediate changes. But as those children mature and grow up and develop and reach new transition stages, hopefully the intervention has resulted in different trajectories for these children so that more children are likely to end up on a positive trajectory in life. So thank you once again for inviting me to give you this presentation. And if you do have any questions, I would be very happy to answer those, and my contact details are there on the slide. Thank you.